The rain wasn't falling straight down. It was slashing sideways. People in Seattle call it an atmospheric river, but that night it felt like the storm was trying to erase me. I stood outside the tall iron gate of my family's home, shaking in a thin hoodie that did nothing to keep me warm. Through a bright window, I could see inside. My mother, Patricia, was calmly pouring tea for my sister, Tiffany. They looked comfortable, safe, untouched by the storm. The electronic gate was locked. I was stuck on the public road. My phone battery showed 12%. I didn't cry. I didn't beg. I called my father. Before I tell you what my father later discovered on my sister's iPad, something that changed everything, drop a comment and tell me where you're watching from and what time it is. I want to know how far this story reaches. The cold wasn't just outside. It felt like it had settled deep inside my body. My jaw shook so badly my teeth tapped together. My hoodie was soaked through, heavy and useless against the sharp wind blowing in from the water nearby. My hands felt numb and stiff as I gripped my phone, holding onto it like it was the only thing keeping me standing. Just 20 minutes. That's all it took for my life to flip upside down. 20 minutes earlier, I had been inside, setting the dinner table. The house smelled like roasted garlic and herbs. Everything felt normal. Then I heard a scream. Tiffany came running down the stairs, crying, holding her phone out in front of her. She said $12,500 was missing from her bank account. Money our grandmother had left her. Money meant for a summer program in Europe. She pointed straight at me. She claimed I used her Face ID while she was asleep. I didn't even get a chance to speak. No one asked for proof. No one checked the bank app. My mother didn't look at the phone at all. She just looked at me. The judgment in her eyes came instantly, cold, firm, and familiar. She didn't ask questions. She didn't hesitate. She reacted in a way that made it clear she had already decided I was guilty. And within minutes, I was no longer welcome inside my own home, left standing alone in the storm, trying to understand how everything had fallen apart so fast. The sound landed harder than the thunder outside. It wasn't discipline. It wasn't correction. It was anger, raw and unmistakable. She grabbed my arm and pulled me toward the door, her grip tight and cold. Then she pushed me out, like I was something unwanted that needed to be removed. The door shut behind me, and suddenly I was alone in the dark, rain cutting across the driveway under the security lights. That's when I understood why I wasn't yelling. Any normal teenager locked outside in a storm would be pounding on the gate. They'd be pressing the intercom, crying, apologizing for things they didn't do, just to be allowed back into the warmth. But I stayed quiet. Standing there in the freezing rain, something finally became clear. This wasn't about teaching me a lesson. It wasn't confusion or bad judgment. She was enjoying it. I could almost feel her watching from behind the curtains, waiting for me to break, waiting for tears, waiting for me to beg, so she could feel generous when she decided to let me back in. This had been going on for years. I was always the problem. Tiffany was always the victim. That story had been repeated so many times. It had become the family rulebook. If I begged, I would be proving her right. If I screamed, I'd be giving her the reaction she wanted. That realization changed everything. The fear faded. The shaking slowed. In its place came something calm and solid. I finally understood my role in her world, and I was done playing it. I wiped the rain from my face and stopped looking at the house. Instead, I turned toward the road, watching the darkness for headlights. I wasn't waiting for comfort. I was waiting for someone to see this. I was waiting for my father. Then I saw them. 2 bright headlights cut through the rain as an SUV came closer. My father's car didn't slow down near the gate. He knew the code. He had the remote. But he didn't use either. He saw me standing there in the cold. He saw the locked gate. And in that moment he made a decision that told me exactly where he stood. The engine roared as he turned sharply, tires hitting the curb hard, the sound drowning out the storm as the vehicle surged forward. The tires tore through the perfectly kept lawn, grass my mother had spent years and money preserving. The SUV crushed straight through her prized flower bushes, flattening everything in its path and completely avoiding the locked gate. The car stopped just short of the front steps. My father stepped out before the engine even went quiet. He didn't rush. He moved with purpose. In one smooth motion, he took off his coat and wrapped it around me. The warmth hit instantly, but his expression was colder than the storm itself. He didn't ask what happened. He didn't ask for explanations. He looked at the locked front door. Then he looked at me. His face hardened. "Stay behind me," he said quietly. He walked up the steps and didn't reach for his keys. He struck the door near the lock with full force. The door gave way and swung open, the sound sharp and sudden in the night. One moment I was standing in wind and rain. The next I was inside a silent, softly lit home that smelled of lavender and expensive tea. The shift was overwhelming. My mother stood in the living room, holding a teacup midair. She didn't look shocked. She didn't look worried. She looked irritated, like someone whose evening had been inconveniently interrupted. "Have you lost your mind, Robert?" she snapped, placing the cup down with a hard clink. "You ruined the garden. I told you I was handling her discipline. She needs to learn that choices have consequences." My father didn't respond. He didn't argue. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't acknowledge her words at all. He walked straight past her, wet footprints marking the rug beneath his boots, and crossed the room without hesitation. He headed directly toward the couch, where Tiffany was sitting quietly, wrapped in a blanket. She was wrapped in a soft cashmere blanket, eyes wide and innocent-looking, holding her iPad tight against her chest like it could protect her. "Robert, don't you dare ignore me!" my mother shouted, her voice climbing higher. "Your daughter is a thief. She stole $12,000. My father stopped right in front of Tiffany. He stood over her, rain dripping from his clothes onto the couch. Tiffany tried to pull back, tried to summon those familiar tears, the ones that had worked for years. She opened her mouth to cry. My father raised his hand. "Give it to me," he said. "That's private," she protested, glancing desperately at our mother. "I said give it to me." He didn't wait for permission. He took the iPad straight from her hands. "That's mine," Tiffany screamed, not in fear but in outrage. She reached for it, scratching at his arm, but he simply held it out of reach, like you would with a child who couldn't be trusted. "Give it back to her," my mother yelled, stepping between them. "You're violating her privacy. You have no right to treat her like a criminal in her own home." "I pay the bill," my father replied, his voice steady and firm. "I own the account. I have every right." He didn't argue. He didn't guess passwords. He didn't make a speech. He walked to the large screen mounted above the fireplace, the one usually showing peaceful scenery, and tapped a single icon on the iPad. The image changed. The calm background disappeared, replaced by Tiffany's home screen, enlarged for everyone to see. "Robert, stop this right now," my mother shouted, trying to step in front of the screen. "Move," he said quietly. She did. He opened the payment app. No tricks, no hacking. The answer was right there at the top of the transaction list. Sent to Lux Life resale amount, $12,500. Note: investment piece. The room went silent, the kind of silence that presses in on your chest. My mother stared at the screen, frozen, her face draining of color as the truth finally settled in. My mother stared at the massive screen, blinking over and over. Her mouth opened, then closed again, like she was searching for words that wouldn't come. "That proves nothing," she finally said, her voice unsteady. "Sierra could have done this. She could have taken the iPad while Tiffany was asleep and sent the money herself. My father didn't argue. Is that so? He said calmly. He swiped again and opened the email app. The most recent message was from just 3 hours earlier. Subject: Your order has shipped, sender, Chanel official. The tracking link was active. The delivery address wasn't mine. It wasn't a storage locker. It was addressed to Tiffany Street, James, sent to her best friend's house 2 streets away. My father turned to her. Did Sierra order a $5,000 handbag to your friend's house? He paused. Did she fake the confirmation email too? Tiffany shook her head, tears pouring down her face. But these weren't the gentle tears my mother always rushed to comfort. These were messy, desperate tears. I needed it, she cried. Everyone has one. You don't understand the pressure. But that's not the worst part, my father said. He swiped again. He opened her messages. He didn't need to scroll. A group chat was pinned at the top, still active. The last message had been sent just 5 minutes earlier, while I was locked outside, while my mother was inside pouring tea. The words filled the screen. Oh my God, it actually worked. She's literally freezing outside the gate right now. Mom totally believes me. She's pouring me tea. I'm a genius. Bye-bye, Sierra. Attached was a photo, a grainy picture taken through the living room window. A picture of me standing in the rain. In that moment, the perfect image my mother had built around Tiffany didn't just crack, it collapsed completely. My father stared at the screen, reading the message again and again. Then he slowly turned toward my mother. You said you were protecting this family, he said quietly. Look at that screen, Patricia. Look at what you were protecting. She's 16, my mother said sharply. She's under pressure. She stepped in front of the television, trying to block the image with her body, as if hiding it could erase what everyone had already seen. She made a mistake, my mother insisted. She felt threatened. Girls her age do foolish things. We can return the bag. We can get the money back. It's just money. Just money, my father repeated. His voice wasn't raised. It was empty. He didn't look at my mother. He didn't look at Tiffany, who was now crying into her hands, whispering words that might have been apologies if anyone still believed them. He looked back at the iPad. He wasn't finished. There's something else, he said quietly. Move, Patricia. No, she snapped. You've made your point. You've embarrassed her enough. He didn't argue. He stepped around her and tapped the screen again. The TV changed. This time, he wasn't in the inbox. He opened the deleted folder. What are you doing? My mother demanded, grabbing his arm. Stop digging. You just want to hate her. I want the truth, he replied. A single email filled the screen. It was an acceptance letter, sent the day before for a full scholarship to a summer STEM program. My program. I had waited weeks for that response, convinced I hadn't been chosen. My father stared at the date. She got in yesterday, he whispered. Then we saw the reply, sent just 20 minutes later. From my account, while I was at practice. The offer had been declined, and the email deleted. The room went still. This wasn't about money anymore. This wasn't theft. It was sabotage. My father turned to Tiffany, his voice breaking. You didn't just take from her. You found her acceptance, rejected it, and erased it so she'd never know. Tiffany froze. My mother had nothing to say. I stepped forward, my voice steady. You didn't want the money. You wanted to take away my way out. Because you were afraid I might actually succeed. For the first time, my mother didn't rush to defend her. Then her face changed. She stood up, forced a thin smile, and told us to leave her house. My father didn't argue. He called the sheriff. When Sheriff Miller arrived, my father handed him a legal document. The house was held in trust. My mother's right to live there depended on keeping me safe. By locking me outside in the storm, she broke that agreement. The decision was immediate. 10 minutes to leave. I watched as they were escorted into the rain, no longer in control, no longer protected. When the door closed, the house felt quiet, safe, for the first time. Later that night, my father made hot cocoa, the same way he used to when I was little. The scholarship was restored. I accepted it. They believed ownership meant power, but real ownership is responsibility. And for the first time, this life finally belongs to me.